Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a seriously fascinating intersection of ideas. We are looking at source texts that completely bridge the gap between astrophysics, human spiritual evolution, and the future of interstellar travel. And the core argument here is pretty radical. It proposes that reaching the stars isn't just about building bigger rockets or better engines. Not at all. It suggests that actual physical space exploration is fundamentally impossible unless it's paired with a massive evolution of the human spirit. We're going on a journey today, from a localized psychic experiment all the way to a total redefinition of physics and our place in the cosmos.
Here is our roadmap for today. We'll be hitting 1. Remote viewing the moon, 2. The limits of material science, 3. Enlightenment as a science, 4. Faster than light navigation, and 5. A cosmic experimental ground. Let's jump right in.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, Remote Viewing the Moon. So, everything we're about to unpack actually stems from one highly specific foundational event. On March 12, 2013, a public remote viewing session was conducted by Ryuho Okawa, and according to the source texts, during this session, the author purportedly projected a portion of his spirit body roughly 370,000 kilometers away, literally all the way to the dark side of the moon. And the wild part? He did this right in front of cameras, an interviewer, and a live audience. He was essentially reporting back what he saw in real time. Almost like a TV anchor broadcasting live from a remote location. The text uses this extraordinary claim as the ultimate jumping-off point to explain how moving across vast cosmic distances is even possible in the first place.
Moving right along to Section 2, the limits of material science.
Now, you might naturally be wondering, if the human mind can supposedly travel 370,000 kilometers in a split second, why on earth is our physical technology still so agonizingly slow? Well, the text zeroes in on the answer with this exact quote: "Materialistic thinking cannot exceed the speed of light." The author is arguing that as long as humanity believes this three-dimensional material world is all there is, the speed of light is going to remain this absolute, unbreakable brick wall. The text is incredibly firm on this point. To achieve spaceflight or faster-than-light travel, it is absolutely necessary to have way more than just material or technological advancement. And that brings us to this core clash of paradigms. On one side, you have standard 3D materialism. It's totally focused on physical matter, it generally denies the spiritual realm, and because of that, it's firmly restricted by the speed of light. But on the flip side, the text introduces multidimensional knowledge. This is a worldview that actively acknowledges higher spiritual dimensions and the multidimensional structure of the cosmos. The author's point is that unless we abandon strict materialism and fully embrace this multidimensional knowledge, humanity is simply never going to unlock true interstellar travel. It's not pitched as a fun alternative theory, it's an absolute prerequisite. Which leads us perfectly into Section 3, Enlightenment as a science. Okay, so if multidimensional knowledge is the key, how exactly do you get it? Well, the source material completely redefines a word we usually associate with ancient philosophy or monks. Here, enlightenment, or satori in Japanese, is not just some abstract religious or moral concept. The author explicitly defines it as a required, hard science for space travel. It's framed as a highly practical discipline used to elevate the mind so a spacefarer can literally tune their consciousness to multidimensional wavelength levels. Think of it like turning the dial on a radio. To fly a hyper-advanced spacecraft, the text suggests the pilot's mind first has to operate at a higher dimensional frequency. And this boils down to some very specific, actionable prerequisites for these cosmic pilots. The text lays out a checklist. First, science and religion have to progress simultaneously. They are basically two sides of the exact same coin. Second, travelers have to understand that the physical world and all matter were originally materialized by divine light or thought. Third, they absolutely must acknowledge that multidimensional cosmic structure we talked about. And fourth, they have to attain intense mental harmony and control. Without mastering this spiritual baseline, the text claims, a species is fundamentally disqualified from ever navigating the multidimensional cosmos.
All right, on to Section 4, Faster than light navigation.
So now that we've got the spiritual requirements down, how does the actual physics of this work? Fair warning, this is where the source material gets highly specific and honestly, a bit mind-bending regarding the mechanics of UFOs. The author claims that to exceed the speed of light and enter that higher dimensional realm, a literal physical transformation has to take place. During transit, both the spacecraft itself and the biological bodies of the crew are completely disassembled at the subatomic level into photons, pure particles of light.
So step by step, faster than light travel looks like this according to the text. Step 1, spiritually acknowledge the multidimensional structure to even access it. Step 2, use intense mental control to allow the ship and the bodies inside to decompose into light particles. But step 3 is the real kicker. Once you arrive at your destination as a wave of photons, how on earth do you become solid again? Well, the text states that reintegrating your physical form requires immense spiritual power, specifically focused will and intention. If a being isn't highly enlightened, they literally cannot put themselves back together. And that is exactly why mere machines can't make this journey alone.
Building on that wild concept, the author notes that this level of spiritual mastery basically acts as an equation for time manipulation. When enlightenment reaches a certain critical mass, the text argues it actually grants the ability to control time itself. By shrinking distance and manipulating time, advanced beings can instantly cross the universe. They completely bypass the decades or centuries that a strictly 3D, material-powered journey would take. Basically, the science of the soul becomes the science of bending space-time.
And finally, Section 5, a cosmic experimental ground. If everything we just talked about is true, it begs a massive question about us, right here on Earth. The text frames our planet in a very specific, deliberate way, calling it a civilization experiment or a training ground. According to the source, highly advanced extraterrestrial beings don't just see Earth as some random rock in space. They see it as a deliberate, curated spiritual classroom. What's really fascinating about this whole training ground concept is the cosmic implication behind it. The author explains that souls from all across the universe come here, inhabit human bodies, and undergo spiritual development. But there's a strict boundary in place. Because multidimensional space travel fundamentally requires a deep understanding of divine energy and requires you to have that mental harmony and enlightenment, savage or spiritually unevolved beings are naturally barred from making the trip. Think of it as the universe having a built-in security system. If your civilization hasn't evolved enough to understand love, harmony, and multidimensionality, you simply can't unlock the physics required to leave your solar system. You're confined to the sandbox until you learn the curriculum. Which leaves us with a pretty profound final thought for this explainer. Based on the framework laid out in these texts, that reaching the stars is absolutely dependent on our multidimensional knowledge and spiritual enlightenment, rather than just building bigger engines. Is humanity actually ready to leave its experimental ground? Are we cultivating the mental harmony needed to traverse the cosmos? Or are we still way too bound by materialistic thinking? It's a genuinely fascinating lens through which to view our future in space. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope this leaves you with some fresh, exciting questions about the incredible link between our minds and the universe itself.